strong evidence from at least one well-designed and well-implemented experimental study, moderate evidence from at least one well-designed and well-implemented quasi-experimental study, promising evidence from at least one well-designed and one well-implemented correlational study with statistical controls for selection bias, or relevant outcomes based on demonstrates a rationale based on high quality research findings or positive evaluation that such activity, strategy, or intervention is likely to improve student outcomes or other relevant outcomes. Also includes ongoing efforts to examine the effects of such activity, strategy, or intervention. Preference will be given to programs that demonstrate evidence of effectiveness of the program's implementation by either their own organization, and secondary preference will be given to applicants that can demonstrate evidence of effective implementation by another organization. Just get to my notes. What I'll add there is that, so you can provide the data collected by the applicant or a study or information from another organization that demonstrates the evidence of effective implementation. Okay, so I will stop here and see if there are any questions at the moment.
This is Tony Taylor with Experience Corps. How are you all?
Hi, Mr. Taylor.
Hey, so just a quick question. You mentioned the minimum requirement of serving 25 weeks. Sorry, I guess the ideal is 25 weeks, for the school year. But you also mentioned a 10-week minimum per student. So I just want to confirm, you're saying that if we were to, because this happens occasionally in our program, we'll get a student in, and maybe in 6, 7, 8 weeks, or in 10 or 12 weeks, they're ready to move on because they've got enough of our curriculum and our program to sort of graduate from the program. We then bring in a brand new student from that same school to replace that space. Are you saying that would be a problem if we had a few students that switched out within maybe 9 weeks of the program?
The goal is that the students, each individual student, attend a minimum of 10 weeks.
Okay, I heard goal, so I think I hear you. Okay, great.
That is the goal of this particular funding opportunity. It is a minimum of 10 weeks for the individual student.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Davida from Reading Partners. When you say in person, if the student is in person and our staff is in person, but the tutoring is like the tutor is virtual, is that still considered in person?
Both the tutor and the student should be in person.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, we will move forward. We will continue.
Hello, everybody. This is Deborah Eichenbaum, and I will do the next section, excuse me. And anyone who signed on late, please just enter your name and organization into the chat box. So, eligibility and requirements. Organizational requirements. Organizations must be nonprofits operating for a minimum of 5 years. Organizations must be registered to operate in DC, and operating expenses should be no more than 30% of the organizational budget. Operations. Organizations will need evidence of good standing, and that includes 990s, clean hands, the good standing document from DCRA, and a basic business license. If an applicant has been a previous Learn or current Learn 24 grantee, they must be in compliance with all current or prior grant agreements. Program requirements. The tutoring program must have been offered for at least 5 years and include structured and supervised programs. Applicants' proven success with the tutoring program must include academic support that extends beyond homework help and or supervised study halls. A one-page logic model or theory of change is required, and we have provided a template for you, but any format is acceptable. Financial requirements. All of the documents listed here are required. The income statement and profit loss statement, 990s and any schedules filed, a board approved budget, and a recent audit done within the last 24 months. Grant fund limitations. A full list of grant fund limitations is provided in the RFA. Grant funds may not be used with other DC government grants to serve the same youth in the same program at the same location. Grant funds must be used for direct program costs. And the federally approved negotiated indirect cost rate agreements or NICRA rates are acceptable. Just please provide the agreement showing the rate to be applied. Okay, moving on to the application narrative. The application process. We provide a checklist for your convenience, but please do not submit or upload that checklist. All documents must be submitted in the format described and uploaded. Applications will not be reviewed if the process is not followed. Additional documents not requested will not be reviewed. Documents that exceed the page limit will also not be reviewed. And it is important to read the RFA carefully, not just the questions that are asked in the narrative. Narrative format. Responses should be written according to the sections and in the order listed to receive maximum point allocation. Organizing the narrative by sections with the corresponding header is suggested. That is exactly what we tell reviewers. So if an answer is found in a separate section, you may not receive points for it since reviewers are told to score one section at a time. The budget narrative is included in the overall pages and should be used to clarify and justify the budget calculations. Budget calculations may be a separate document. So we ask that you put yourself in the reviewer's shoes as you write your application. And in fact, you can even be a reviewer. We have several RFAs that are currently open, and anyone with youth development background is eligible to apply to be a reviewer. No one would be able, of course, to review for a competition in which they have applied. But as I've stated, we have several different competitions currently open and are always looking for qualified reviewers. Just a shameless plug for the office. To continue with the narrative format, all of these details are important, even though they may seem trivial, but please, use the 11-point font, Times New Roman, page numbering consecutively, single space your document, and the use of tables, graphs, or charts is permitted, but it will count toward the narrative page limit. So I'm going to pause there for a second and see if anybody has any questions.
I have two questions. If our fiscal year just started for the profit loss and balance, are we able to submit our Q4 from the last fiscal year?
I'm going to say that we're going to answer that in the questions and answers. I believe so, but it will be, the answer will be given in the question and answer document.
Okay, and then my other question is, would our certificate of good standing count for our articles of incorporation since it states that we are a foreign entity in DC? Since our articles of incorporation are from another state, or should we submit our articles of incorporation that's in another state?
We do not need your articles of incorporation. We need the certificate of incorporation or the certificate as a foreign entity. We do not need articles of incorporation.
Okay, so if our certificate of good standing count as our certificate of foreign entity, it'll count for both.
No, those are two separate documents. DCRA will provide a certificate of incorporation or incorporation as a foreign entity. And then there is also a good standing document. So they are two actual separate documents.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Vania.
Thanks, Deborah. Okay, now we're going to talk about the scoring rubric and how applications are scored. Applications will be reviewed on a 108-point scale as follows. Organization history and staff experience will be 16 points. Need, description, and justification of programs will be 32 points. Program measures, 20. School and family partnerships, 16. Budget will be 24 points. The rubric consists of 4 sections. Each row will be scored from 1 to 4 points. Checkboxes are listed under each description, and the applicant will receive completed and anonymous score sheets following the review. One thing I do want to say about the checkboxes and providing the information is use those checkboxes as a guide, right? For wherever the box can be checked that says that information is provided, right? Use the scoring rubric as a guide. So I would just add that as a best practice. Specific information and results based on evidence should be included in the application. The application is an opportunity to show the reviewer the effectiveness of the program. The strongest applications include details on how evidence is collected, the data itself, program changes that have been made based on the data, and information on how it affects the outcomes. Budget. So budgets are required. They're a required part of the narrative. Financial attachments can be any length and any format. You can provide the program and organizational budgets. Please provide program and organizational budgets. Detail how the grant award will be used. Describe other sources of funding and the status of those funds, and provide all necessary documentation. Workshops and questions from the OST office. So as it was mentioned previously, a logic model is required. Logic models are required. There is a pre-recorded Learn 24 logic model workshop. We have provided the link here in this PowerPoint. We will share this PowerPoint as well. The recorded training for the logic model is available on the Learn 24 website at all times. It is up and available. So please feel free, if you don't have the access to this PowerPoint, to go to the Learn 24 website, and we have tons of resources there. I would just continue to plug that website. It is very helpful and informative, but that recorded session is there. for questions and answers. So please submit any questions to rfa.sy21-22 with the subject line High Impact Tutoring. Please submit questions no later than July 12th. Answers will be published at the site provided in the RFA regularly, and the final date that answers will be provided will be July 15th. So as we have been mentioning about the Q&A document, it will be live, it will live there, and all of the questions and answers will be populated in that document. The required documents. So some of these we have talked about. So IRS determination letter of 501c3. The nonprofit organization dated July 19th, 2016 or earlier. DCRA, a certificate of incorporation or DC registration as a foreign entity dated July 19th, 2006 or earlier. So I think that goes back to the question. A clean hand certificate dated within the past year or between July 19th, 2020 and July 19th, 2021. DCRA certificate of good standing dated within the past year between July 19, 2020 and July 19, 2021. A DCRA basic business license currently valid through September 30, 2022. Or if it will expire before September 30, 2022, organization will need to renew it for it to be valid through September 30, 2022. And I know we got a question about that already, but I just want to clarify that the BBL currently valid through September 30, 2022. Other required documents. So the current fiscal year income statement and profit loss statement, 2 years of the most recent audit, 2 years of the most recently completed and signed 990 form, 990EZ or 990N. The cover sheet and program locations, that is to be completed online. The narrative, of course, not to exceed 14 pages. The budget, programmatic and organization, the certification and assurances, the one-page logic model, the NICRA documentation, if that is being submitted with the application, and the LEA MOU or LOI, and that is in regards to the partnership with schools. Application submission. Okay, applications and attachments must be submitted by 5 p.m. on Monday, July 19th, 2021. Applications received after the deadline will not be reviewed. Also, applications without a confirmation notification will not be reviewed. If applications are incomplete, they will not be accepted. Applications will not be accepted by fax, not accepted in person, and no extensions will be granted for the submission of missing application components. Application with missing attachments will be considered incomplete and will not be reviewed. Absolutely no applications will be accepted after Monday, July 19th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would recommend to print out the confirmation when it comes on your browser, just to ensure that there is proof of submission. So that is another thing that I will mention as a best practice. Regarding the review process, the OST office will organize a panel of 3 independent grant reviewers who have a background and knowledge of youth development and out of school time. Each application will be read by 3 reviewers utilizing the rubric that is in the RFA. In the event that 3 reviewers' scores differ by 10%, by 10 points or more, that is plus or minus, either more or less, a 4th review will be completed and the initial score with the greatest difference from the mean will be discarded. Okay, so each application is reviewed on a 3 reviewer panel. And then if those scores don't norm within 10 points plus or minus, then they will have a 4th review. More about the review process. The 3 reviewer scores will be used to calculate the final score that is then used to rank the applications. These scores and ranks will be used to determine the grant awards. Priority points may be provided to ensure equity across the district. There are certain preferences indicated there. Additional points will be awarded consistently and objectively based on information supplied in the proposal. All reviewers are trained in the use of the rubric, and all reviewers are screened for conflict of interest. So that goes back to the point that Deborah mentioned. If you are interested in being a reviewer, please apply. And we absolutely screen for any conflicts of interest. Okay, notification of awards. All applicants will be notified via email about the status of award by August 31st, 2021. Okay. Applicants will receive their anonymous score sheets in September. Applicants should ensure that the rfa.sy21-22@dc.gov email address is on the list of acceptable email addresses so it doesn't go to the spam filter in regards to communication from that email address. All funding decisions are final and are not subject to review, appeal, or protest. Just some general application tips, a few more here. Make sure the application exactly follows the order in the RFA. Do not submit documents or materials that are not requested in the RFA. The budget narrative should be detailed and show math and based on each line item in the budget. Avoid using general language, be as detailed and specific as possible regarding the different components of the application. So be as specific about program activities and schedule, how evaluation is used, incorporation of student youth voice, other streams of revenue, things like that. Please make sure everything is clear and as detailed as possible. If awarded, there are some requirements we need to discuss. The grantee will be required to, and this is not an exhaustive list of the requirements. Attend grantee meetings and activities, participate in research and evaluation activities, comply with insurance requirements, participate in administrative and programmatic site visits and provide required documentation, ensure all staff acquire the required clearances, utilize the district's database and CitySpan. That goes back to our website, CitySpan. You can get information about that on the Learn24 website. Provide programmatic updates, provide financial documentation. So yes, this is not an exhaustive list, but is a list of the things that are required for if awarded. Now we're going to share some important dates. So Friday, June 18th is when the RFA was released. Monday, June 21st, we had a logic model workshop. Wednesday, June 23rd was another logic model workshop. Today is, they were recorded. One of them, we kept the best one, and that's what's uploaded on the website. Today is the grant information session. Monday, July 12th is the last day for question and answers to be submitted. Please make sure you use the subject line of either HIT or high impact tutoring. Thursday, July 5th is the last day that the answers to the questions will be published live online. Monday, July 19th, completed applications are due electronically in the Seamless Docs by 5 p.m. July 2021, if needed, questions to applicants will clarify any questions that need to be clarified. And then as of August 2021, award announcements will be made via email. Feel free to, for any questions or point of contact regarding the competition, to email this RFA 2021 21-22 at dc.gov. again, with the subject line high impact tutoring, just so we can differentiate and be clear about how we are answering questions. So feel free to shoot any questions to that email address. And we will take the time now, if there are any. I have not read the chat. I do see Alex. Go right ahead.
So I just have a quick point about seamless. So we just actually ran into this again yesterday. Whereas when you're attempting to register or when you're attempting to complete the seamless docs form, the first time that you go in, you're going to have to create an account, which allows you the ability to save the application and come back to it at a later date. However, you're going to after you create an account, you're actually going to have to put the link back in to the into the website to actually access the application over again. And that way you can actually, like I said, be able to save the application and come back to it at a later date. So if you log in, so basically if you log in and you see that there is no screen or there is no forms or anything of this sort, just enter the link that you already access into the website address again, and the actual application should arrive.
Thank you for that, Alex.
I
And I see that Alex also put the links in the chat as well to the Learn24 website, as well as the Logic model recording. Thank you, Alex.
have a question about the demographics. You mentioned there being a preference for at-risk students. I'm just curious, so when we report that in the application, are we reporting estimated numbers? Do we need to get, so easier question is, do we need to go ahead and gather that data from the partner schools we're looking to work with next year to get a sense of their at-risk data, or are you going to use your own internal data from like OSSE, SLED to determine the population of students for that school?
I think the easiest answer is that the at-risk category is drilled down in the RFA. If you take a look at it, it is drilled down there. And yet, working with your partner schools to determine it, right, and get clear on that their at-risk population is also another way to go about it.
Great.
But it clearly defines in the RFA by name, right? But by category of who that is. Yes, sir.
Okay. You mentioned you wanting to have, you will be requesting data for research activities. What sort of data are you looking to request from the grantees?
Say a little more.
So, are you looking for like tutoring, like tutor age, or tutor background? Is it number of sessions recorded? Achievement gains. Do you have a sense of what you're going to request? Yeah.
You mean in the application process?
No, I don't know. It's maybe in your fifth to the last slide. You mentioned all of the things we'd be required to provide you throughout the grant year. So, like, just to have a sense of what data you need to request from us on the program.
Let me take a look, and then I'll answer that in the Q&A, just because I'm not exactly clear. But you mean in regards to outcomes?
Assuming that's all you're looking for, I don't know if it's just outcomes or you're looking for, again, data on our tutors, so you could do some sort of analysis in terms of our, again, qualification of tutors or whatnot. I have no idea. So whatever you can give us would be great for us to know in advance.
Are you asking also about what needs to be recorded in our database in CitySpan?
I mean, that too, yeah, that would be great to have. Another question you mentioned, so I understand, not every organization will qualify or even apply for this. So if we were to submit, say, a budget of, 400,000, but you actually had, or request 400,000, but you had extra funds left because you didn't have enough organizations that applied for it, would you give us the maximum based on availability of cash, or would you just hold on to that until the following, a future program or a different grant year? I'm wondering if we should like ask for the max. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure we.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm clear on that question.
So it looks like you have a set amount of cash set aside for this grant. Is that right? You have a look to disperse. So say if this, I don't remember what the number is. Let's say it's 1 million. You get 3 applications. All applications apply for 200,000. It's only $600,000. Leaves you $400,000 in your pot. Are you going to distribute that to the 3 organizations and increase their award amount? Just curious.
I'll clarify that. I'm not going to answer that right now, but what I would say is the award amount will be the award amount if awarded.
So it doesn't necessarily have a bearing on what we're requesting, is what I guess what I'm asking. That's my question. You know what, dude? Like if we request 100,000, but you're like, actually, we're gonna give you 300,000. Is that possible? Would that happen? Or are you going to award based on the actual request?
Going to award based on the actual request.
Understood. Okay. And one other question, you mentioned you're going to give a preference for tutoring sessions that have anywhere between 1 and 2 students per tutoring session, which I think makes a lot of sense. I understand that completely. But I'm just curious, now in a lot of our cases, some of our schools, we never go beyond 3, but they have a preference for 3 students in some cases. Again, we'll do one-on-one as well, but just curious, is this, you didn't specify like how many points that would be. Is that going to be a significant reduction in terms of scoring if we're predominantly serving 3 small groups of 3?
I would say the best place to find that is in the rubric that's indicated in the RFA. You will literally see the points distribution for that.
Great. Okay. And then this is my last question. So you said that you will be notified by August 31st, right? Any chance of that being in early August? Do you have a sense of, I know it's a broad range. Are you anticipating like late August, or would it be early August, do you think? Any idea based on your experience when it might come out? No idea.
I would say by August 30th.
All right. Okay. Thanks. This is really helpful. Thank you so much.
No problem. No problem at all. Alex, I do see a few other questions in the chat.
Yeah, so I logged in. I'm reading questions. Sorry, I used it was my voice. But could you explain where and when the tutor would take place?
Where is at school locations?
That's what I gathered from it. Yeah, so I guess like in general, like where
Yeah.
exactly?
So the where is at school locations. When the tutoring should take place, it depends on the organization, but in the RFA it is mentioned either before school, during school, or after school, and programs that are adjacent to the school day, either immediately before school in the morning or immediately after school, have preference.
And then the other question is, can funds be used for coaching and training for our AmeriCorps members to implement our program?
I'll answer that in the Q&A. Just to clarify that question, is that simply a portion of funding?
Davida, if you want to, Davida. Yeah. She said yes.
We'll respond to that in Q&A. I think that's a good question to post live.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for those questions, Davida and Paul.
I see Julie typing in the chat, so we'll wait.
Is there a consideration if schools/districts don't allow or doesn't allow for vendors to enter schools based on COVID protocol?
Yes, if it's a district call in regards to that, then yes, which is stated in one of these slides and somewhere in the RFA. Okay, I don't see any additional typing in the chat. And I don't see anyone else off mute. So I'd like to say, Alex, you can let me know if you see anything else. Thank you, everyone, for attending this information session today. Alex, it will be posted on the Learn24 website at some point in time, likely Monday or even today.
Yes, maybe Tuesday. because
Maybe Tuesday.
We're not going to be here.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yes, and it will actually be posted right under that same the funding opportunities right under the same notification for the high impact RFA. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is 10:52. That will be giving 8 minutes back to each of you for a fruitful day. I will stay on and right up through 11 o'clock. I see Tony is typing, so I will stay on. The rest of you, feel free to disconnect.